There's some out there that believe that fast speeds, tall heights, and big jumps equate to dangerous. But they're sorely mistaken. That's not danger.
He understands someone that gives their life to be a light and salt in this world is dangerous. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. He understands when homes are strong, churches are going to be strong. When churches are going to be strong, the community is going to be strong. When communities are strong, nations will be strong. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? I was joking about it this morning. I was like, every service feels like it's about the same size. It's nice this year, every service, and then this happens, and now I'm like, what the heck? Where'd you guys all come from? This is awesome. There's like 120 people in here right now, and this is a regular. You guys are awesome. Obviously, I'm not Christopher. My name is Caleb. I'm here on staff. I'm also a small group leader. So it's a pleasure to be teaching you guys today. Going to be picking up where we left off in our dangerous series. So what does that look like to live dangerously for God? We talked about family, what it looks like to have a dangerous family. It looks about how to live your life dangerously and how to maximize that and not stepping outside your comfort zone, but expanding it and going out and becoming dangerous for who you are and how to make this next year the most dangerous of your life. So picking up where we left off with that, I'm tackling community and what dangerous community looks like. All right, so what does 11:12 as a dangerous community look like and how you can become dangerous in community? Just to you guys again, I feel like I don't know a lot of you, so I want to get a little bit more personal with all of you. So I was in the military. I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years, and part of that was as a reconnaissance special forces. So we used to refer to ourselves as a community. So there was a community of special forces, and it doesn't matter if you're in the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, or anything. When you say I was a part of the special forces community, we have a connection. We know. It doesn't matter what your training was, what my training was. We just get each other. Does that make sense? Like there were days that I would meet somebody for the first time, like, oh yeah, you're from MARSOC, and I'm from reconnaissance. Like we just innately understand what we've been through, and that's the community that I was part of. And of that, as a culture, we look at, oh yeah, special forces, like the SEALs, like they're a dangerous community. Like this is that is what a dangerous community looks like. And what leads to that? What makes them dangerous? Is it the hours of training, the discipline, all the cool fancy gear they have, their missions that they go on? What is that? And I'm here to postulate, having been through a lot of that, I will say the most dangerous part of that community was the community itself. Was the support that we had in one another, knowing that I've got your back, you've got my back. We're all serving alongside one another. We're fighting next to each other for the same goal and the same purpose. That's the most dangerous part of that community. I'm committed because I know you're committed. You're not going to quit because I'm not going to quit. Again, the best example I can do of that is part of the training. The training pipeline that I went through was about a year long, starting with basic stuff to jumping out of airplanes. You name it, I've probably done it. And it was such an awesome experience, but to start it off, the first thing that they do is a huge gut check. They see, are you worth it? Can you make it? Can you cut it? And will you be able to live up to the standards? And I was lucky because I had a good buddy of mine that we were both committed to doing it. We're like, okay, let's do this together. Let's sign up for this. And so we kind of made a pact with one another going into it, saying, I'm not going to let you quit because I don't want you to let me quit. On the hardest days, I'm going to make sure that you succeed, and on the hardest days, I hope you're there to get my back when I'm starting to fail. All right, that's the community that I became a part of with him. Him and I were going into this, and part of that where there were days where there's the longest day that we had, it was like 26 hours of just constant work and physical exertion, and then there's other days where you're in the pool for 5-6 hours a day. Those of you that are in water polo or swim or anything like that, you understand. You have an innate hate for the pool now. Where now anytime you see the pool, you just don't want to get in. People say it's fun, and you're just like, this is awful. You understand. Where there's days where you're in full clothing and you're swimming in the water and you feel like you're drowning. That is the environment that we, as me and my buddy, were in. And there were days when he was in the mindset, he's like, I'm done, I'm drowning, I'm done, I quit. He would start swimming to the side of the pool. And we made that pact. So I would swim over to him, grab his camis, and pull him back to the center of the pool and be like, you are not quitting. And conversely, there were days when when life sucked, it was cold, it was pouring down rain, and I was ready to quit, and he just literally slapped me and said, no, you're in this. All right? That is community. That is the strength that has. And that's the special force. Now that's so different than where you guys are at, I understand. But I'm going to try to relate that to where you're at. Because community, no matter who you are, whether you're in that community, in the military, or whether you guys are in high school and you're going to different schools or whatever, you still have community. The same power, the same influence that you have in the context in which I was in, is the same power and influence you guys have in your own lives. And that's what I want you guys to grasp today. All right? Here at 11-12, we have two major things that kind of set our core, our community, or our culture here at 11-12, and that's Joshua Team, which is our student leadership team here, and then also growth groups. So Joshua Team is it used to be a small group, and now you guys are up to like 75, 80 people on a weekend, which is insane. But it's awesome. And the core of Joshua Team is we have kind of three basic rules, which is we're inclusive, we want to include people, we want to encourage people, and we want to spur one another towards growth and to serve one another. All right, that's how we do life differently. In a lot of contexts, people always say, oh, I want to be a leader, I want to be up front, I want to be on stage, I want to be the one that has the spotlight on them. But in reality, more often than not, it's the opposite. The opposite is true. As a leader, you're the one back there doing the lights and sound. You're the one that is doing house managing, setting up, making sure there's drinks over there. You're somebody that is greeting. You're at the door and you're welcoming new people in. More often than not, it's not as much glamour as it is hard work. But that's okay. In John chapter 3, everybody's going to John the Baptist. They're saying, hey, are you the Messiah, the one that's going to come and save us? And he says, no, it's not me. It's Christ. He must become greater, so I must become less. And somehow we flip that in our minds. We say, as a leader, I want to be better. I want to be the one on stage. I want the fame. I want the money. I want that. But in reality, it's like, no. It's the opposite. I must become less so that Christ can become greater. And that's what we do as Joshua Team. That is our goal. That when you come in on a weekend, we are serving alongside one another. And Christopher is the first one to tell you guys that on Joshua Team, the easiest way to be included and to become part of our ministry is to serve alongside our ministry. Because once, again, just like in the community I was talking about, once you have a single purpose and a single goal and you're both working towards that goal, you're in a community. That's it. That's our Joshua Team. That is a plain and simple. We meet after service on Sunday, so we meet from 12:37 till about 1:15, 1:20, depending on the week. And we just talk. We just talk leadership. We talk how we can include people, how we can be a better group that encourages one another, how we can spur one another towards growth, and how we can serve. So that's kind of a bigger scale. On weekends and community nights, that's what our Joshua Team does. Now, on a much more intimate level, we have growth groups. And Chansha was talking to you originally about what a growth group is and how to get connected and involved with what that is. But taking that a step further, guys, we have an amazing group of leaders here. We have an incredible staff and that pours into our leaders, that pours into your small group leaders, because we want to make sure that they're equipped and ready to answer any questions that you may have and pour into your guys' life. So I highly challenge you guys to trust them and pour your life out to them, because they can answer your questions. They're going to be the ones doing life with you. Realistically, with Christopher, Chansha, myself, and other people on staff, if I were to sit here and talk for 10 minutes, it gets bigger every time. 10 minutes with each and every one of you guys, I would be here till tomorrow, and you guys would be late for school. Like, realistically, okay, I'll move it again. But realistically, it's not very intimate. It's a 10-minute conversation. Okay, now I gotta move on to the next. I'm gonna move on to the next. Our door's always open. We always want to talk with you guys. But I would hope that when you come into my office or you come into Christopher's office and you sit down, the first question I'm gonna ask is, does your small group leader know what's going on? And if you say no, that's scary for me, because I'm like, okay, what is our leader doing wrong? Do they have that trust? Do they have that environment? Because more often than not, your leader can answer these questions, and we want you to go to your leader because we want to create that community in your group. Anyway, I'll talk more about that in a second here, but I want you to realize how that's dangerous. And again, we're not talking about a physical sense where maybe the reconnaissance side of it was a physical dangerous, but now we're going into a much more spiritual dangerous. How do you become spiritually dangerous? There's no middle ground where you're either for God or you're against God. There's no in between, all right? So are you dangerous for God, or are you not? All right, so So we're going to jump into it. So if you have your Bibles, I encourage you to open them to 1 Thessalonians 5:12 through 15. 12 to 15. This is where I'm going to kind of base everything off of what I'm talking about today, all right? I want you guys to understand that context is key. Anytime that we're up here teaching you guys, I hope that you would question what we teach. I hope that when we say, okay, I want you to read this verse, that you understand that that verse is in the context of a bigger picture, and you guys can understand what that looks like. I had a great conversation after last service about what it looks like to understand what you're reading in context, and that's my encouragement to you. Whenever we get up here and teach, and we give you verses, or we give you a single verse or a passage, read it in its context. Question it. Because for me, I want you to call me out if I'm bringing something out of context. I want to know about it. I'm teaching, all the time, I want to make sure I'm teaching what the Bible's saying, not what I interpret it as. Does that make sense? So you guys, that's my encouragement to you. Anyways, starting in verse 12, it says, "Now we ask you, brothers, to respect those who work hard among you, who are over you in the Lord, and who admonish you. Hold them in the highest regard and love because of their work. Live in peace with each other, and we urge you, brothers, warn those who are idle, encourage the timid, help the weak, be patient with everyone. Make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but always try to be kind to each other and to everyone else." That's where I'm coming from. These next 3 points I have is how to create community, how to become part of community, and how to shape your community to be dangerous. But this is where it all stems from. And I'll keep going back to this passage here. So the first point is how to create community. How to create community. Now, I understand this, that whether you like it or not, you're part of community however you are. Your friends groups at school, your coworkers, whether you're your growth group or who you're hanging out with here in 1112, that's your community. Those are the people that you go to when you're hurting. Those are the people that you go to when you want to talk about something, or when you get your license. Those are the first people you tell. That's your community. All right. So whether you like it or not, you're in a community. Now, how to create a community is different. Now, again, for some of you guys, this might be how I'm going to tweak my community, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But to create community, more often than not, is to become different. So if you're at school and you're like everybody else, and you're letting them dictate what your community looks like and the way the culture runs, is that necessarily right? Because in the Bible is a bunch of standards and how we're supposed to live our lives, live up to. Jesus was different. The way he lived his life was different. So be different because he is different, because Christ is different. Are you living your life being defined by your community through culture, or are you letting God and Christ define how you do your community? So in a lot of ways, you have to redefine what that looks like. You have to redefine what your community looks like. And that hurts, guys, because I've been through it. I've taken a stand for what I believe and started to shift my own community, and I lost a lot of friends over it. And my encouragement to you in that is, if you lose a friend over life changes, that you're shifting your life to be more like Christ, and you start losing friends, they're probably not friends that you want anyway. They're not friends that are pushing you to be more Christ-like. Instead, they're trying to live a different life. All right? I'm not saying cut them off completely and just hang out with just strictly Christian friends. Hear me here. Just don't let them define how you live your life. Let the Bible define how you live your life and how you do your community. And you can minister to them. But don't step into their realm. Don't go to a party and drink with them because you think that's going to be an influence on them. Because it's not. You're letting them dictate how you do your life. All right? In fact, on the opposite end, there's John chapter 13, verse 34 and 35. It says, "A new command I give to you. Love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know you are my disciples, if you love one another." So if you do that right, if you start living your life in a Christ-like manner, now things shift. They may stop being friends with you, but now every time they look at you, they're going to know something's different, and they're going to know, even if they say it in a rash or mean way, like, "Oh, you're just the Christian kid. You're just that Christian boy. You know, you're that goody two-shoes, whatever. Like, that's you, but that's not me." But at least they know something's different. Because if you live your life in such a way that it's loving, when they're hurting and they need somebody to love on them, they're going to go to you. Because they know you're going to be there with open arms. And again, in 1 Peter 2:12, it says, "Live such good lives among the pagans or non-believers, that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day He visits. That's it right there, guys. Live your lives in such a way that when they look at you, they can't give a reason why, they can't call you a gossip. They can't call you a cheat. They can't call you a thief. They can't call you Jennifer, okay? They know for sure. And when they do, you live such a life up until that point where anybody will look at you and say, that's not true. That is not who they are. Your character speaks. So they may see your good deeds and glorify God. So they will see what you're doing, and they'll know God's involved, whether they like to admit it or not. All right? So that's how you create a community. Second part of that is how to become part of a community. And let's probably start having a little fun. All right? Becoming a part of a community is huge. We had our Rowdy Howdy Throwdown, our first community had that on Wednesday night. We had about 250 people here, and 205 of you guys signed up for growth groups. And on top of that, over the last 2 services, we had another about 10 people sign up for growth groups, so that number keeps growing. So you guys, that's the first step I'm going to throw at you. To become a part of a community is take that initial step. Again, I talked about the 2 different things that we do here in particular towards that, is Joshua Team and growth groups. And you've heard it said, and you will always hear it said, that Chancho even said it today, where he said that church happens in circles and not in rows. You guys can come here on the weekends and you can serve and you can become a part of this, but church doesn't happen until we sit in a circle for Joshua Team, or we sit in a circle with growth groups. All right, if you want to become a part of 1112, learn that means taking a step and becoming a part of that community, whether it be growth group or Joshua Team. Those are really the best ways. If you come into the doors of 1112 and have the mentality of how can I be served today? How can somebody encourage me today? How are people going to include me today? You're going to be disappointed. It'll happen, you'll be included, but you'll still feel apart from it because you're not in the community. You're not serving alongside of them, working alongside of them. If you show up to your growth group and you're just like, how are you guys going to serve me today? Oh man, Darlena was supposed to bring snacks tonight, she forgot, now we don't have any food, so now it's going to suck. If that's what makes it or breaks it for you for a growth group, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The point is, if you show up to a growth group, to really truly become part of a community, you have to step into the arena. You have to put forth vulnerability. You have to step into that and say, I'm going to serve alongside you. I'm going to become part of this community. Hebrews 10:23-25, and I'm sorry there's so much scripture, but it's a church. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. Let us consider how we may spur one another towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, all the more you see the day approaching. This is the easy part. You guys just started school. Summer's been awesome. We had great summer Wednesday nights, Rowdy Howdy, everything was sweet. Great community. You guys feel connected. Now it goes more intimate. Now it's smaller numbers. Now you get to get one-on-one. And this is where it gets fun. But it gets hard. Because as you start going into school, finals start coming through, sports pick up, somebody else in your group, maybe not you, might get in a relationship and they start dating and now they start disappearing. Different things like that. Life happens, guys. Do not give up meeting together as some in the habit of doing. Just like me in that story where I'm in the pool and my leg starts to cramp and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I start quitting and I start pulling away. Don't quit. I hope that you guys create a culture in your growth groups and in this community as 1112 is when somebody starts to go away towards sports, towards dating, towards school, towards whatever it may be, you have a culture that you're going to pull them back. But understand that comes with a price. And that price is, if I start to stray, somebody better pull me back. It's not always comfortable. More often than not, it's painful. When you get called out on something, it's not always the happiest day of your life. All right. But that's what I mean. To become a part of a community, step up and make that covenant, make that commitment with that other person, and say, okay, I'll meet you here and say, I will make it to group every week if you promise to make it to group every week. And that's the commitment you make with them. So now, either way, nobody's missing out on that community. All right? Lastly, my favorite part is how to shape your community to be dangerous. And plain and simple, become the support that your group needs. That's the first step. Become the support that your group needs. Again, I'm going to keep using growth group as an example, but this also means in your friends group at school. Become that person that is the support that your group needs. The ear to listen all the time. The person that is there to bear each other's burdens, to be the one that can speak wisdom, or just sometimes just sit there and listen to what they have to say. And hear me, guys. For you juniors, this is new. For you juniors, this is your first growth group with 11-12, and it's super exciting because I get to take a growth group, so I'm taking a group of junior guys, and it's going to be great. We get to learn, I'm going to teach them what our 11-12 culture looks like and what they're going to look like from here until the end of their junior year. For you seniors, you're on the flip side of it, where you've been through 1 year, you know what 11-12 looks like, you know what the challenge is. Now just you have to rise to it again, which is great because you guys will be much, much stronger than you were 2 years ago at the end of this next year. So you understand it. We're in this awesome zone where it's like, okay, the beginning of a really new era for 11-12, because this is where you seniors get to set the culture and set the community for what this ministry looks like, and you juniors get to learn alongside them what that looks like. So become that support. Become the support for your group where it starts. More often than not, periodically we have people that come into our office and say, hey, I think I need to be in a new group. I don't connect with my leader, the girls aren't at the same place I am, or the guys are not, challenging me and growing me in a certain way, and I want to be in a group that challenges me. And so when we dig a little bit deeper, we're like, how many times have you been at group? They're like, oh, I've only been once in the last 3 weeks. You're like, wait, what? You don't feel connected because you're not going or because you're not growing? And I think that's more often than not is such a great indicator of the commitment. If maybe you're at a point in your life where you've been poured into so much, where you've had so much wisdom poured into you, you've had people mentoring you, you've had scripture given to you, that it's time that you take that and give that to someone else. And again, that's what the beautiful part about this beginning of the year is. We have 205, which is, now it's 215 sign-ups for growth group, which is record-breaking for 11-12. Yeah. That means that you guys are going to have a ton of new people in your groups. And if you're in that opposite zone where you're not going to be new into a group, and this whole growth group church thing is new to you, I hope this is an awesome experience for you. I hope the people that have been around will be able to pour out to you. That's the design of culture. That is what we do growth groups. There's not a growth group that is, we learn more here, and this person doesn't do that, and this is for beginning level. No, we mix everybody so you guys can all learn together. So if you're in that position where you're up on your high horse and you're looking down on everybody and you're like, this is what it is. I've been here since I was 5 years old, blah, 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 blah. It's like, maybe you should just take a step down and get to know everybody's life story in your group. If you take the next 8 weeks to really learn everybody's story and pour out to them for 8 weeks, maybe on that 9th week something happens in your life. Maybe something in school, something at home just falls apart. And now you need them. But now you have a group of 12, 15 other people that turn around and say, I've got your back. I'm not going to let you out of this pool. I'm pulling you back. All right, that is what community is. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence or whatever. Like you can see another and go, oh man, that group looks so much fun. Looks like so much fun. They're doing so much. They have such influential leaders. And then you look at my group and there's not. Maybe you're that influential leader that's turning a blind eye to them. Maybe they need you. And on the other side, if you're on the other end where you're like, I'm new to this, I want to learn. I hope there's people in your group that will pour out to you. And I hope that you'll reach out and make that commitment. Galatians 6:2 says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. It's biblical to come alongside and do life together. That's what that means. Do life together with somebody. It means to go through the hard times with them. To go through the times where it's great. Hey, somebody just got their license, now we can go get froyo together. Yay. I know what you guys do. Ice skating, all that fun stuff. But that's what it looks like, is celebrating when somebody's celebrating, to grieve when somebody's grieving, to do life together. It means to be there for one another. So if you're in a group where you show up once a month, you're not doing life with them. You just show up and do your time. If you're just here on the weekends and you feel like you're not connected, it's because you're not. Because you're not involved in community. You're not involved in 1112. You're not investing yourself into them. So how would you expect somebody to invest into you? And now my favorite part. I keep saying that, but it keeps getting better. So last year, so you guys know, I led a junior group last year, so they're now seniors this year. And we used to have fun times for me, and not so much for them. But that would stem off, and it would come off of a reason or something that they didn't live up to standards. And what that means is on the first couple weeks of group, we sit down and we create the standards of our group. And so your group will do something similar, or you have some pre-established way you do it. I don't know, I don't really care, but this is how I do it. We sit together and I tell them, okay, you're gonna make your standard. You're gonna tell me what your quote unquote rules and standards and what we're gonna live up to for this next year looks like. And so they start with, there's things all across from like really dumb and simple to like really like profound. Like some that are like, yeah, we just won't talk on our phones or have our phones out during growth group. And it's super simple, but it makes a lot of sense. If Riley and I are having a deep conversation and then all of a sudden I pull out my phone and I start texting somebody back, it's disrespectful to him. But that's one of our standards. Okay. So another one we do is no excuses. All right. So what that means is if I show up late or I didn't do our assigned homework that we usually do for our group, then I can't have an excuse for it. Like I did the work and they're like, well, why didn't you do your homework? Well, I just didn't manage my time well this week. I went out and saw a movie when I should have been doing my homework. Guys, I'm sorry. And that's showing the humility to say, guys, I apologize for what I did. Instead of being like, oh, it was just super busy and my parents wanted me to go on this trip with them this weekend. I didn't have time for it, and yeah, I'm sorry. Like, it sounds harsh, but at the end of it, you're relieving a burden off yourself if you could just come in truthfully. Now, is that an excuse to not do that kind of stuff? No, absolutely not. But at the end, it's the commitment level. And kind of the other extreme over here, which is like harsh, which is like if you guys show up late, so if you show up 10 minutes late to group, you can't talk for the next 10 minutes. Because we've all been in a group where, even if it's a friends group, this is not just growth groups, but we've all been in a group where you're having a great conversation and then somebody busts in and they're like, sorry guys, I'm late, here's all my stuff, this, I was stuck in traffic, blah, 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 and they just kill the entire mood. They don't know what's going on, or they put in their 2 cents when you already covered that. 10 minutes ago you were talking about that. And so that was our thing for my group, whereas 10 minutes, you don't talk for 10 minutes. And on the extreme of that, if you show up any more than 30 minutes late without being excused or let me know before, I just tell you to go home. Which again, sounds harsh, but you walk in 30 minutes late and we're all in conversation and I'm just like, just go home. Apparently this wasn't a priority for you. It sounds harsh. But again, I didn't make this rule up, they did. Where they did it because they didn't want to be disrespected for people showing up late. Or showing up, that was something that they made up. And again, it sounds harsh, but as a member of the group, it protects you. Because now you're going to be like, okay, my time is valued here. My opinion is valued here to the point where I need to be here on time. So it protects you in that group. So when you guys go into this next week, when you go into this awesome time of setting goals and standards and what you want this next year to look like, that's my challenge, is that you guys set that bar high. Because if you set it low, if you set that bar low, you're only going to achieve low. If you're going to say, hey, we're just going to come to group and maybe talk about the weekend service, that's it. That's all you're going to do. But if you say, hey, we're going to meet every week. Every one of us is going to be here every single week. We're going to meet twice outside of group. So maybe on a weekend we'll go surfing together, or we'll go ice skating or whatever the heck. At least twice this semester. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. Like, you just make all these different things for your group. At the end of it, you'll either achieve it and you'll be like, oh, I did so much stuff. Like, we all were here. Or maybe you missed a couple weeks because something came up with your family or whatever. You weren't able to figure out a date that worked for everybody to go out, you'll still end up way higher than you were if you set the bar low. And it happens time and time again. When we see it with my group, we set the bar so high and we achieve it. You know, one or two of us might miss it by a little bit, but at least it's way higher than it would have been. So when you guys go into this group, I hope that's your mindset, that you build that connectedness and that community, that you want that in your group. Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. And that's where you guys get sharp. That's where you get down and you can get into the nitty-gritty. You can ask questions. You can say, I don't really understand this. Can you help me understand that? I saw you were doing this or you're acting this way. Can you help me understand? Can we explain it? And you work at one another. Again, I wish I could, but I don't have the time to sit down and work with each and every one of you. I don't. But I do have the time for 12 people in my small group once a week. Challenge to you. Get into that mindset of where I was at in that reconnaissance training, where when you step into that arena with your group, we all say, I'm not going to quit, and I'm not going to let you quit. And you have that agreement, you have that covenant with one another, and covenant, what that means is I'm going to fulfill my end of the bargain regardless of what your actions say. So if my end of the bargain is I'm going to stay here and I'm not going to quit and I'm not going to let you quit, when he starts, or when somebody in my group starts quitting, I'm just going to grab him and pull him back. And I'm a part of a growth group over for the adult services, and that's the same commitment I have with them. Where if I start missing groups, I better have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 phone calls saying where you at, or people that are showing up at my house making sure that I'm in group. All right. Again, set that bar high, because you'll surprise yourself in what you can achieve. Going back to 1 Thessalonians 5, it says, and we encourage you, brothers and sisters, warn those who are idle and disruptive. So what if our growth groups were modeled after that? Where I can go up to Jacob Taylor and be like, dude, you haven't been showing up to church, you haven't been growing, you haven't been asking questions like you used to, what's wrong? And then I can unpack what that means and call them out for being idle. What if somebody comes in and disrupts our growth group and is constantly a deterrent from that? What if I call them out on that? It's healthy. It's biblical. It says, encourage the disheartened. When people show up to growth group and they're disheartened because they're having a hard life and things are going on and life is just sucks for them. What if you become that encouragement for their life? What if you become that safe place that they can go to 2 hours a week? Maybe sometimes more. Helping the weak. If somebody's struggling with something and you become that help in their life, that's what we're called to do. Patient with everyone. Make sure no one pays back wrong for wrong, but always strive for what's good for each other and everybody else. And ultimately remember that our battle is not of flesh and blood. This is learning how to be dangerous in a community in the sense of I'm going to have people that have my back to the point where they're not going to let me quit, and everything that we're going to do is push each other towards Christ. That's what the point of growth group is. It's not how can you serve me, but it's how can I push everybody else towards Christ. Because in that same breath, they're going to push you towards Christ as well. All right? Lastly, I didn't share this with any other group, but it's one of my favorite quotes, and I always use it, so I asked them to put it up in the back. No. I'm not Christopher, okay? But you can read with me. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives violently, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does not actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends time in a worthy cause, who at his best in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never knew the victory nor defeat. What if you use that as the way that you view your growth group? Become that person that steps into the arena, whether you succeed at the end of the year, where you've achieved everything that you guys set that bar high and you've achieved what you wanted to achieve, but don't be on the other side, where you don't put in the effort. Don't become one of those cold and timid souls that didn't even try. Rather, step into that arena together as a growth group, together as a ministry, as 1112, as Joshua team, as whatever it is. Step into that arena. Make that commitment to one another. That's my challenge to you. To step in. Because if you're not in, you've got no voice. You shouldn't. People that are calling you out on being that church person, they're not in the arena. They don't understand. They don't understand that you're fighting a dangerous fight for community. They don't see it. So that's my challenge to you guys. If you're not in a growth group, sign up for a growth group. If you are in a growth group, set that bar high. Don't let each other quit. I guarantee you this next year will be the most growth you've ever seen in a growth group if you live to that standard of living. All right, let's pray. God, I just thank you for this time that we just have together. I thank you that I'm able to speak my convictions in this, God. I pray that as we go into this next week and we meet with our growth groups, that we can just set that bar high, God. That we can just establish a culture and a community within our growth group that is pushing one another towards Christ. And outside of growth groups, in our communities, at school, or in Joshua team, or whatever it may be, God, I pray that you just create a culture in us that we push each other towards Christ, and we don't care what others think because they're not in the arena with us, God. I thank you for all of that. I thank you that we have the freedom to meet with you, God. Praise in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Obviously, growth group starts this week. If you want to get involved, talk to Chancho in the back. He can get you signed up for a growth group. And real quick, hey, Costa Rica. If you guys are interested in going to Costa Rica this year, this is very important that you hear this. Next week, applications will come out. 2 weeks from now, that will be a parent meeting. It's September 12th. So you guys, if you want to go to Costa Rica, you have to be there as well as one of your parents. It's a parent meeting. It's not going to guarantee that you go, but it's going to, give them all the information and stuff that you need. And then 3 weeks from now, applications are due. So 1 week, applications go out. 2 weeks, parent meeting. 3 weeks from now, applications are due. Cool?